Misinformation has been a problem for as long as information has been able to spread, but the use of the internet makes it a unique problem. Through social media, misinformation can be regurgitated thoughtlessly and accepted as truth. This has physical ramifications for our present and is a source of harm for Americans who don't carry a skeptical eye. Misinformation parroted in the last few years about politics and the pandemic needs to be sorted out, and that's what we're here for. The coronavirus pandemic is a still spreading virus that went global in early 2020. The World Health Organization began warning the public in January of that year. Multiple countries started lockdowns in the next 2 months to prevent the spread, and the United States implemented lockdowns on March 13, 2020. As of December 10, 2022, 6,600,000 people have died of COVID. The death toll is not a hoax, it was a preventable tragedy. Once the mandate came down in the United States, weeks of self-isolating started. Social media had everything to say, and among many responses of fear and stress, conspiracy theories began to spread. Conspiracies about the pandemic were rampant and untrue. Common conspiracies were that the pandemic was not happening, and that the lockdowns were a mechanism to control the world populace. Others said the deadliness of COVID was being over-exaggerated, or that COVID was a bioweapon being developed by China. These conspiracies are incorrect. The blessing and curse of the internet is that anything can go viral, and you are exposed to anyone's and everyone's thoughts and opinions. The internet is not a perfect machine, and incorrect information can go viral in hours. Misinformation is enormous, and in some cases, deadly. The Scientific American attributes misinformation to the frightening death toll in the United States. Statistics show that the United States has a much higher percentage of COVID deaths compared to its percentage of the world population. The National Library of Medicine demonstrates how misinformation hurts everyone. If more people refuse to participate in healthy practices, more people go to the hospital, and hospitals become stretched thin and find it difficult to handle new patients. Other things you may have heard include the idea that once you get COVID, you are immune to it, that you don't need to get vaccinated, or that you don't need to wear a mask anymore. In reality, getting infected makes it more likely to get reinfected. Mask wearing goes both ways, and that it helps prevent you from infecting others and others from infecting you. People may be asymptomatic carriers of viruses, so mask wearing and vaccination is the healthiest option for everyone. The first advisory about masking in the pandemic was asking the public to not buy face masks. They're a finite thing and would be best used by doctors. Doctors experiencing a shortage of an essential tool would not engender a healthy working environment. As more research was done, the CDC concluded that wearing masks as a practice should be extended to everyone. This was a change in mandates due to new information being learned about the spread of the virus. This is a talking point that has been grasped by pandemic deniers, claiming that this is evidence of the pandemic being a hoax. It is not. This was researchers learning new information as it became available and informing the public accordingly. Face masks began to be bought in stores after a slew of homemade face coverings went viral in the weeks and days before the lockdown started. People insisting they did not want to cover their faces began to protest and insisted that masks were ineffective and oppressive. Masking is a proven way to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Between comparing similar places that masked and didn't mask, projections of COVID deaths, and the physics of how viruses spread, it can be said with certainty that masks do prevent the spread and that they save lives. Faux treatments and cures for COVID began to spread on social media. None of these were cures for COVID, and some of them even hurt people through their consumption. One of these fake cures was ivermectin, a parasite treatment often used in horses. It was paraded as a potential cure for COVID by right-wing groups. It is in fact not a cure, and its consumption in the way it was being advertised is health hazardous. A lot of conspiracies have been spread about the COVID vaccine that was distributed in early 2021. It has had a lot of criticism levied at it, skeptics quoting the quick production time and what they believe to be untested nature. A lot of scientific testing is at the mercy of corporate donors or patrons, and if anyone takes interest in the project, no matter its severity or importance to the scientific community. Other vaccines would be able to develop quicker if they had more funding. The current COVID vaccine distributed by Pfizer and Moderna was developed with a lot of funding, as the pandemic status of COVID precipitated a lot more concern and funding from the public by people such as Dolly Parton. Some conspiracies surrounding it asserted that it was implanting people with microchips or caused things like infertility or autism. These are laughable accusations and pointedly untrue. Those suspicious of the vaccine's quick development should be interested to learn that the COVID vaccine had the perfect storm of support to carry it to the finish line much faster than other vaccines. The imminent threat the pandemic had compelled wealthy people and corporations to fund and donate to the project. Another critical part is that a lot of the research was already done. COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus, a family of viruses that the world has been aware of since the 1960s. This article by Nature.com puts it best. The research that helped to develop vaccines against the new coronavirus didn't start in January. For years, researchers had been paying attention to related coronaviruses, which cause severe acute respiratory system and Middle East respiratory system, and had been working on new kinds of vaccines, an effort that has now paid off spectacularly.
Another aspect relevant to our discussion of the 21st century in the United States is the efforts against racism. A lot of incorrect things have been said about race and racism on the internet, and a topic of importance on this is the Black Lives Matter movement.
The Black Lives Matter movement initially started in 2013. It was organized by 3 female black organizers after the shooting of Trayvon Martin in 2012. In 2020, the movement skyrocketed in attention with worldwide protests against police brutality and systematic racism. Although the movement received positive support, it also received backlash from the general public and media. In 2020, a black man named George Floyd was killed in a viral video where a white police officer named Derek Chauvin apprehended him. This led to Chauvin having his knee on Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes. This incident sparked outrage, and this was the beginning of heavy media coverage that lasted for months. According to USA Today, the BLM movement isn't partisan or political. The article discusses the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, which is an independent federal agency whose focus is Hatch Act violations. The Hatch Act prevents federal employees from being involved in any partisan political activities, but it allows its employees to participate in BLM-related activities due to BLM's main focus being issues of racism, quote, which are not inherently aligned with a single political party, says Joel Shannon from USA Today. The media treated most of the Black Lives Matter protests like terrorist attacks, finding specific events of violence to paint the whole movement in a certain degrading way. Articles claiming that Black Lives Matter protesters committed heinous crimes went viral. Some of the articles that got some traction were, quote, the Los Angeles police, 12 white female bodies in garage freezer tagged Black Lives Matter. This article was archived and removed, but not before it was widely shared on social media platforms and other news agencies. The story the article discusses did not happen and was created to discredit the movement. False news stories about protests and movement started circulating online and on news platforms.
One of the most popular false news stories was that the Black Lives Matter Foundation raised millions of dollars, but it's not affiliated with the BLM movement. This specific news story was released several different times on Fox News, claiming the misuse of funds. Specifically, one of the founders of the movement was accused of using donation funds to buy a house, one that was purchased before lots of donations rolled in after the attention given to the protests in 2020.
Another object of misinformation was the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. CHAZ was an occupational protest in June of 2020. Organizers worked to protect multiple blocks of Seattle roads and prevent Black Lives Matter protesters from being unfairly arrested by police. This was after tense standoffs and violent retaliation by police officers in response to protests weeks earlier. CHAZ had demands of Seattle to organize better conditions for black citizens, such as shifting funding to black communities in need. The area was peaceful within, local businesses and community clinics helped keep protesters afloat. This tweet by Nick Bowman puts it well, quote, spent some time down at the hashtag CHAZ today. Contrary to many reports, there were no armed guards checking IDs. Things were extremely quiet and peaceful, and the people were both passionate and polite.
So this is one of the more central areas of the Black Lives Matter movement here in Seattle. You can see behind me there's a very large mural that's now covering the street. Look around. You see families with children. A lot of music going on. There's a lot of live music at night.
Claims that Black Lives Matter protesters were across the board violent and unruly are incorrect, and attention should be paid to how police officers would instigate violence against protesters, as well as journalists covering the scenes. For example, journalist Linda Tirado was blinded in one eye by a sponge bullet after reporting on the protests in Minneapolis.
When it comes to opinion, BLM is a movement where the nation becomes divided. Just like any other news story that gains nationwide or worldwide traction, it's bound to have misinformation spread about it. This is where we need to find ways to protect ourselves and others from falling victim to it.
Protecting yourself against misinformation is a skill of paramount importance in the 21st century. Examining how old information is, if someone of repute published it, and how the information was sourced can be important things to check. A few tips that can protect you from misinformation and refrain from sharing it are verifying that the information is correct through other sources, pausing and reflecting before sharing whether information is useful towards viewers. There are a variety of websites and sources available that specialize in fact-checking information. A few of them are PolitiFact.com, FactCheck.org, and the Washington Post Fact Checker. Each of these resources gives readers and viewers the ability to analyze and verify information from different sources and media outlets. We hope this video has been informative and a wake-up call to the storm of fake information and false claims that drape themselves in the truth.